schools who've decided to join us today. I'm very, very excited and equally humbled to present today two of my extremely special children. I've had a beautiful journey with Tanav for almost 3+ years and with Ria for 2 years. And the emotional battle that I'm going through today to think that they're going to be soon leaving and not going to be a part of my life, which I hope is not true. I hope they will continue to be a part of my life. But before I introduce them and I let them take on the absolutely incredible stage that they set out for you, let me quickly introduce you to who we are today. My name is Priyanka Bhartia. I'm the managing director for a company called AcepptU. Ninad, if you could turn to the next page. So AcepptU is the world's leading virtual counseling company. We're very excited to tell you that we have the largest amount of Google 5-star reviews ever, which I hope and I believe are completely honest. What makes us very special is the fact that all our counselors have been admissions officers. Our founders are from Princeton and Cornell, and the rest of them have come in as a team of 45 odd people. What is very important to us is that we hope and we try to make you get into one of your top 3 choices, which of course is a standing example of why Tanav and Ria are here today. And with that, our results for this year, beyond just these two, have been incredible. We've actually got 2 Stanfords, 2 Harvards, and MIT, 1 Wharton, couple of Cornells, UC Berkeley, Brown, RISD, Parson, Cambridge, LSE, Oxford, and so much more, even those with scholarships, which is beautiful because the last 2 years wasn't so big on scholarships. So that's about AcepptU. The company that brings them is Admission Specialist. Ninad. Admission Specialist is a not-for-profit. We try and make sure that whatever children need from the period of grade 7 up to even college and maybe even graduation is available to them. To a large extent, all our webinars are always free so that every child can be benefited, not those who are just signing up with us, but anyone who has a dream to go abroad to study in one of the colleges in hopefully US, UK, Canada, and Europe and Singapore. With that, there's nothing more that I need to present. We'll put the contact us page there so that you always have an ability to reach out to us. Ninad, if you can just put the, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot our results, but I've already said that. So Ninad, if you can move on. Perfect. The contact us page is there for you all. Now let me introduce ladies first, of course, Ria. Ria is one of the most passionate children I have met. Whatever she does with seriousness beyond her age's ability. Her mother was very involved as well, but there was very little that her or me could do, because even through 2 huge typhoid attacks and another set of fever, Ria never stopped working. Founder of a non-profit, expert in school and expert of SAT, and the most beautiful work she does. Frankly, I think Wharton is lucky to have her, not the other way around. Let me now introduce you to Tanav. Tanav is one of my sweetest children. When he came, he was half his size probably to us. And I remember when I asked him a question, he actually looked down because he was so awkward to answer. From there to today, Tanav's made me so proud that till date, when I hear his results, I still break down and cry. This kid of mine has got into so many colleges, I don't even remember the names anymore. But of course, there's Stanford, there's Harvard, there's Cambridge, I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, Tanav, there's Duke, and there's so much more in his palette. Does that make either of them proud? Not at all. And you'll see their humility completely flashing through today. My dear Tanav, who doesn't believe in any activities, if he had his way, he'd only do math. And please note, math means pure math. Okay, so don't ever think there's another version of math in his life. With that, let's move on to the questions. I have a couple of questions ready here, but children and parents, remember, go into the chat and keep putting questions. I'll take it on from there. The reason I do a series of questions first is because Ria, Tanav, and I felt these were most critical. Okay, so with that, let me go straight into the question which no one ever asks, but I really want to know. Ria, Tanav, and Ria, you always go first, but Did you always know that you want to go to a top college or will get into a top college?
So my approach was actually very different. So unlike most of the regular lists, I did not really have any safeties, and I'd say maybe one or two targets. So from the beginning, I always knew that I wanted to go to the best colleges. And in my list, I actually had around 10 colleges, and those 10 were in the top 20 for what I wanted to do, which was business and economics, because I either wanted to do the best or I would have rather stayed in India. But so at the back of my mind, I always thought that I would get in. However, I think it's also important to share that when the decision started coming and when I saw how competitive it was this year, that's when I started to get a little worried and hoped that I, maybe would have added to one or two more safeties to my list. But I think at the end, it all thankfully worked out. So to answer the question, yes, I feel like I always did know that I would get into a top college, and that's where I wanted to go for sure at the end of the day and not compromise.
Sana, go for it.
Yeah, so first, yes, I always wanted to go to a top college, but speaking about getting into a top college, I don't think we can ever be certain. Now, what I mean is, if you look at the acceptance rates of these colleges, it's 2%, 3%. So no matter how strong a profile you build, or no matter what you do, I mean, in the end, it does boil down a bit to luck. I mean, it's very important to note that, because I mean, I did get into a few top universities, but I was also rejected by quite a few top universities. So I mean, all of it in the end, no matter how strong your application is, it does boil down to luck. So yes, I wanted to get into the top universities, obviously, but I don't think anyone can be sure of getting into one of them. Yeah.
Like I said, humility is an approach you will see with them very, very soon. My next question, how did you research the college you wish to attend? And children, this is really critical. All of us turn around and say, oh, Wharton's #1 for business, I want to go there. But there is a lot of research that goes in, and I would like Ria and then Tanav to answer this question.
Sure. Or actually, I think my approach and Tanav's approach is quite different. So if Tanav, you could answer this first, I think I could build on to you.
Yeah, sure. So again, I would not advise you to go purely based on rankings, because rankings, I believe, like there is no one way of looking at it. Different websites rank colleges differently. So rankings just give you like an overall picture, I believe. So what I did for college research was my primary source of information was the college website. And in the college website, I first looked at the academic program which I want to do, which in my case was pure math. So I looked at the different opportunities offered, such as the variety of the course offerings, the research opportunities, and the fields in which the faculty of that university work and how that aligns with my interests. So I think that is really important while choosing your university, because more than the rankings, these are the factors which will which will determine your learning outcomes during the 4 years of university. Yeah.
So adding on to Tana, while academics was a very big factor for me, which is how I selected those, the top few universities that I wanted to apply to, for me, factors outside of academics were also extremely important. So I was someone who was really big on school spirit or clubs or interacting with people, and I wanted to ensure that I had ample of opportunity to do so. So I also looked into clubs, small things that are unique to the school that allow you to interact with other people outside of the classroom. I'll give you an example of one thing that I really liked at Wharton. It was something called the cohort system. So like how we have different houses in school, they have that in Wharton, and that was something that was really attractive to me. So looking at these small things outside of academics, I felt was what really helped me narrow down on a lot of schools, rather than just picking from the top that were really good academically for what I wanted to do.
Ria, very often you will have children look at, do you want to go to a public or do you want to go to a private? Do you want to be in a small? Do you want to be in a faculty to student ratio? Cold, hot? Did either of y'all give any of this priority?
So for me, I think most of my college lists were colleges towards the East Coast. So weather-wise, while warmer weather is always, more easier to adapt to, I'd say for me, because I applied to a lot of colleges on the East Coast, I didn't really have the privilege of choosing based on weather. But I think factors like how the class size or the number, like the student to teacher ratio, were also very important. And also things that I definitely did look into to see if I would get that individual attention that I thought was very important for me.
Sana, what about you? Do you have any other approach to this question?
It's kind of similar, like whether none of the places that I applied to were extremely cold. That is one thing. And I did focus on student to faculty ratios and class sizes, because I think that plays an important role in like how well you learn, because the amount of like, for example, out of all the universities that I applied to, I think Cambridge had the best student to faculty ratio, like due to the supervision system. And yes, that does play a very important role in like how well you learn during college, I think. Yeah.
Amazing. We do have a question here. Ria, Tanav, if you all are okay, let's take the question before we move to our questions, because it's an interesting question. Do you always have to do liberal arts when you go for the US education, or do you have to kind of say engineering or whatever? So I know, I don't think this student has completely understood the definition of liberal arts. So any one of you want to take the question? Else I'll explain it, but I'd rather you all talk about it.
Yeah, I could go.
Perfect.
Yes. So, like out of the colleges which you apply to, I mean, if I have to put them in two categories, like out of what I apply to, one are like liberal arts universities, like say Harvard, Princeton, or other, like many other Ivy Leagues, which try focus on a holistic education, wherein even if you do major in a particular subject, say you will major in engineering, but at the same time you will have to meet certain requirements in say humanities or English, arts, and other things, though these requirements vary from college to college. And on the other hand, there are also institutes of technology, if I have to call it that way, such as MIT, Caltech, and Georgia Tech, for example, wherein wherein there is an almost complete focus on the major you're applying for, and where there are like very minimal non-major requirements. So yeah, that is the basic breakdown of it, I think.
Perfect. That was the answer I was hoping for. Moving to the next question. Share your story. When I say share your story, let's discuss your activities and how did you bring depth on them. Here's something I want you children to know. Whatever they say, please listen very attentively to how they got depth within it. To just touch on everything, as a lot of us are told, do a little nonprofit, do a little sports, do a little of volunteering, do a little of teaching. Not important. With both these kids with totally different approaches, what you will realize is the depth. And I'm really hoping they'll be able to share that. Ria, please go first.
Yeah. So a lot of people actually know me for my nonprofit that I co-founded with one of my friends, Ankita. It's called Vishwasa. So it's an organization that we founded it in June of 2019. And when we started it, we aimed to have mental health support for underprivileged children, as well as provide them with life skills training. But however, after the pandemic, we were unable to go in person. And that's when we started doing video modules. And we also worked towards creating general mental health awareness. And that's when we started creating more awareness through our Instagram page and all of that. However, I think one reason why Vishwasa was really impactful in my application was because of the depth that was brought about through it. So eventually we started reaching out to not only Telangana, but more states. And we had collabs with people from other states, and we worked with other organizations. We tried to reach out to as many people as possible. Through Vishwasa, we tried to not only, after we tried to address mental health, we also kind of implemented other things that the children would really like. And we started to try to improve or increase our impact as much as possible. Every opportunity we got to, create awareness about it or gain support, we've tried to do that. So at the end of it, we were able to gain a lot of volunteers. While a lot of, if I could add this here, while a lot of volunteers does, as we usually think, it will, create more awareness and it'll make the organization bigger. But at the same time, what I've learned is it's important to keep your focus, and instead of looking for numbers, you look for the impact that you're creating. You might as well have 20 people that are working efficiently than 70 people just for namesake. So at the end of it, I think I'd say our main motto is impact, impact, impact. So any way or any opportunity we found, whether it was reaching out to corporate companies to get funding, or reaching out to other mental health organizations to have professional counselors, we try to go in depth and help as much as we could.
Okay, so now I'll go. So as Priyanka auntie said, you should not, you should not think of the activity list as a checklist per se. I mean, that you need to do one volunteering, one MUN, one round square, one like tutoring thing, or I mean, it's nothing like that. It varies from individual to individual. Now, speaking about how I try to bring depth in my application. So now I was applying for a mathematics major, and in order to and what I thought admissions officers will look at is how deeply I have explored mathematics in various ways. So my focus was to show the depth of my exploration in mathematics, and I tried to do that in various ways. Like I participated in various math competitions, for example. I did various math courses. I did a research paper with a professor. Then I did a blog on mathematics, and I did projects based on mathematics which would help the community. So that way I centered my application and activity list around mathematics, so that, I mean, it's not like a scattered list of items. It's rather all of the activities have a common link, which actually consolidates all of your efforts and activities which you have done, and shows your focus and enthusiasm for the major you're applying for.
And I think this is what we call aligned activities. Who you are and who you want to become is such a clear, straight, parallel line. So even what AcepptU worked with them, with Tana, for example, the blog, choosing a Stanford high collegiate course that he did, everything was with direction given to him. Similarly with Ria, she was already doing Vishwasa. She was very clear why I want to do it, how I want to do it. All we could really do is, I think, help her get nominated for an award, get her to be covered in women-oriented nonprofits. But as she said, what was incredible is not the award she won or the presence she had and the media she managed to collect as well, because that was quite a lot, right, Shreya? You had a lot of media presence. But it was only because of the impact that she constantly brought. She was very clear, it is socio-economic needs that I want to target. And that's what led her to where she was. Tanav, on the other hand, was not about his, if you notice, an extracurricular activity. It was clearly an academic interest, and that's what led him to where he was. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next question, and I hope you all understand aligned activities and depth. Okay, I know, Ria, that this is a question you're very passionate about. What should the portfolio look like? So I really want you to take this first, and then maybe Tanav can add on.
Yeah, so the way I look at it, actually, there are three different pillars that you can classify your portfolio as. The first one being academics. So this includes your school grades, your standardized testing, your AP exams. And the second one is intellectual based activities. So that includes doing research papers, internships, or taking any courses. And the third thing would be activities that show your involvement in the community. So it can be volunteering work or leadership positions. And while all of these do seem all over the place, what I can tell you from my application was I had all of these three elements balancing each other out, but all of them or everything I did was towards what I applied for. So while I did have a research paper, while I did do volunteer work, while I did have leadership positions, all of it was eventually related to what I applied for, and which is business economics. And I think that kind of links to the previous question as well about how you bring depth while you also do show how you are working towards varied things like both intellectual and community-based activities.
Okay, so my approach to building my portfolio was not as like systematic or like that balanced, I would say, as Ria's was. But what I would say is, like, the way I built my portfolio, I mean, I did not actually like make a conscious effort to build it per se. Like, I just did the activities which I felt like I was interested in. Like, there were many things, like, as you must have noticed, most of the activities I said were related to math or STEM related, because that's what drew my interest. So my application wasn't balanced as such. But the thing is, I mean, when you like, what my recommendation would be is to just, I mean, build your portfolio not consciously, but just by doing the things that you're interested in, and try to explore your fields of interest in varied creative ways that would probably appeal to an admissions officer reading your application. And I mean, in the end, you will see that it automatically builds up into a strong application if you follow that path. That's what my perspective is.
I especially love this answer, and thank you, Ria, for getting me to add this question, because if you notice, they're completely chalk and cheese. But at the end of the day, their journey was to take them where they wanted, and they have achieved that. And which is why this question was so critical in my mind. Let's move to the ever eternal application question, essays. Everyone freaks out. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's worried. If you are freaking out, don't worry. It's normal. Again, everyone has a different approach to essays. So while AcepptU works with the current system in mind, there's a certain amount of liberty that the way children want to take it as well. So while I ask you all these questions, Tanav and Ria, you can choose to answer what essays were priority, how you worked, and what support or help you got from AcepptU. So you both can take the question you want. Of course, our next question will anyway be, what was the support from AcepptU? So you can, keep that there as well. So Tanav, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. So speaking about my recommendations for how to write college essays, firstly, don't treat it as an English literature or English language essay. I mean, it might be tempting to try to show off your writing skills or writing prowess and really high level vocabulary, which no one understands. But believe me, that's not what they're looking for. What they want to know about is you, your experiences, your interests, your enthusiasm for your subject. So try to center your essay around that. It's okay if the language is simple and straightforward. Just make sure that the message is clear, and that you show your passion for your subject, and you, as mentioned earlier, you show that there is some depth to what you want to do. Yeah.
So for me, I think one important thing to know is that once you're done writing, I mean, once you write your college list and look at how many essays each school is asking for, it can seem overwhelming. But I think it's important to know that once you're done with a few essays, a lot of material that you've already written gets recycled. So you're not copy pasting the exact same thing, but by then you've already gotten a hang of it, and you do reuse what you've already written in some previous essays. So it becomes a lot easier. But when I was writing my essays, it was the things I made sure to include was why I am different than others and why I am qualified to do this particular course at the school I'm applying to. Because the opportunities that are there, in my opinion, anyone can take up, anyone can do. But what makes you different, and what have you done to show your interest or to show that you are qualified and you are actually interested and deserving of that one or of that available seat? So that's what I try to convey in my essay, in all of my essays. And I think one very important thing to remember is that an essay is never complete. There are always numerous changes that you can make. And there's the essay I submitted was not complete either. I could have made so many more changes, but at the end, it's important to know when to stop, and that, you know, this you can make maybe 100 changes, but it, you know, will have the same effect as the essay you currently have. So you should, at the end of it, once you think that, I mean, you're never going to be happy with it either. To some extent, there's always going to be that small part of you that's like, okay, fine, I want to do this, I want to do that. But trust me, once you think you've delivered what you want to say, and once you put that across, then you're good. And just trust yourself and trust what you've written.
I couldn't have agreed more with that. It's really important to know when to back off. If you're working with a counseling team or your school counselor, or let's say you're an AcepptU student, when your counselor tells you we're done, you discuss a couple of things if it's bothering you, but don't overdo it, because you almost end up losing the essence of your essay if you overwrite it. Okay. Ria, a little bit about what your Common App essay was, and then maybe Tanav could talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. So actually, when I was in after ninth grade, I went to something called the finishing school. So that's basically where they teach you the basic stuff like cooking, grooming, stitching, stuff like that. So after going there, I had conversations with a lot of people who've actually become my really close friends now. So what I wrote about in my Common Up essay were my conversations with these people and what I learned from that and how I took it to my strengths and how it helped me grow. So the whole essence of my Common Up, I'd say, was how I took opportunities that I found and how I grew from them. So yeah, that's what my Common Up was basically about.
Also, it showed a definite intellectual curiosity. When you have a conversation, you can just shut your chapter, right, Shreya, and say, oh, okay, she said that. But you actually went deeper into say, she's gone through this, and that's why she's here. So that made it so unique. It's such a simple essay, come to think of it. And a lot of people would turn around and say, oh, finishing school, does it show privilege? But it came across so simple because it was from the eyes of a little grade 9 child, and from there how she built it to mature her own self. Beautiful essay. I still remember it, Ria. Tanav?
Yeah, so my essay was based on a machine learning project that I had done. So like to speak about the structure of it, I basically started by speaking of the problem. The problem was that, I mean, due to the pandemic, many sectors, like basically many sectors around the world had closed, like such as these malls had closed, cinema halls had closed, but another sector that had closed was the religious sector. That prevented people from, like, say, being able to go to temples or other places of worship. And yes, so that was the problem. I would say the problem. And now then I went on to speak about my solution, which is about the machine learning algorithm which I built to actually enable people to be able to access these places of worship from the comfort of their home through and I to achieve this, I interned with a company called bhagwanji.com. So yes, so that's what it was basically about this problem and how I use my knowledge of machine learning to actually help the community and solve this problem. Yeah.
Again, if I may butt in, from the professional standpoint, why did he write this essay is crucial. He wrote this essay because his grandparents couldn't go. They were not being able to step out and take their religion, wherever they used to go to the mandir or whatever. They couldn't do that. Am I correct, Tanab? That was a part of your essay. And that's how this whole idea came to him. Both of them very different, but the intellectual curiosity was take something that comes from your ambience and environment and build on it. And that's what makes them so exceptional. So obviously I can go on and on about essays simply because that's my forte and I'm a journalist. So how wrong can I go there? But we will move on. Remember, sorry, children, please write your questions on the chat box. I will be able to see them and ask them. Okay, in the meantime, I'm just going ahead with my next one. Okay, obviously a bit of a commercial question here, but both of you were working with AcepptU. How did AcepptU help you? Any one of you wants to go first? Ria, you want to go first?
Yeah, I could go first. So, of course, Priyanka auntie was very supportive throughout. I remember calling her at almost 12 a.m., 1 a.m. and working on my Common App essay together. But other than that, she was always supportive throughout. We made a much larger impact with Vishwasa working together. We also, I remember suddenly I wanted to do a research paper and I tried contacting everyone I knew and I couldn't find, but luckily after talking to Priyanka auntie, we were able to find an amazing opportunity for me. And I think that was one thing that really elevated my application. And secondly, I think Stephen also played a really big role. So we had a mock interview after I got my interview offer from Wharton. And that was something that really helped. And one more thing was the mock review of my entire application. So I was that one person who's always like, I want to change this in my application. Is this not right? Is that not right? But I think that, that whole process of doing a mock review of the entire application was something that gave me a lot more confidence.
Thank you, Beta. That really meant a lot to me. Tana, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think AcepptU has been really helpful throughout my journey, especially Priyanka auntie and my AcepptU counselor Jamie. So through AcepptU, firstly I would like to divide it into two stages. I think first the building of the profile and then the actual application process. So AcepptU helped introduce me to many opportunities. For example, my AcepptU counselor Jamie, he told me about many math competitions which I could take part in, and he helped me plan my summers, which helped me decide what opportunities can I make use of during the summer, such as certain competitive summer math programs, for example. And AcepptU also helped connect me with a professor under whom I could do my research paper, and I think that added a lot to my application and profile. And more importantly, by interacting with the professor, I was able to learn a lot about math, which I think was the primary objectives of any say research paper you're writing. It is to advance your knowledge. And now coming to the application stage, AcepptU helped me a lot, primarily in the review of the essays, I would say. I remember I sent my essays my Common App essay, UCAS personal statement, and supplemental essays to my AcepptU counselor, who would read them, give me feedback, and then I would work on that feedback and send it back to him. And I think there were two rounds of feedback for each essay, and that helped to strengthen my essays, improving their quality and their impact on the admissions officer. So yes, so that has been very helpful.
Thank you so much. I mean, this question was, I think, more to satisfy me than them or anyone else, but thank you so much. It feels really good. Moving on, a very critical question, and I want you all to think about it in retrospect. if you look back, if you could turn back the clock, what would be some of the changes that you'd like to make, or what were the mistakes you might have made, which you would want these children who are obviously eagerly attending this to learn from? Ria?
Yeah, so I think one major thing that I would have changed was how I did my college research. So in the beginning, actually, I spent a lot of time, I'd say more than 4 to 5 months, just researching the college and a lot of things that come with the college. But I feel like once you don't need more than an hour to get an idea of what the school offers and a few certain things that I think you can keep as a checklist that you want, like the weather, for example, or the student to faculty ratio or the class size. So once you look at these, few categories of your requirements, I feel like the more in-depth research should only take place when you write the essays, because it's only when you write the essays that you know what particular aspect you want to talk about, and that's when you can do more research into that. And I feel like that would have saved a lot of my time that I could have spent on a lot of other things. For example, like maybe enhancing my portfolio more, or taking up, maybe not, I wouldn't say taking up more initiatives, but having more time to give to the ones that I already currently took up. And the second thing I'd say that I learned throughout the process was that I know a lot of us want to take up every opportunity that comes our way, because we feel like it'll somehow be useful in our college application process. But I think it's important to plan ahead and decide, how many activities you want to do. And more than the number, the depth is important. So it's important to know what, I wouldn't say know the exact activities, but have a rough idea of, maybe the 10, because you're allowed to list 10 in the Common App. Have a rough idea of those 10 that you want to do, and only take up opportunities if it helps you add value to those 10, because otherwise you might not even add it in your application if at the end of the day you're taking it up with the aim that you can eventually add it in your application. So it's important to plan ahead and not take up everything, because at the end of the day you might not even put it in your application, and you could have used that time for something else.
Yeah, so one thing which I would like to change is like the list of colleges that I applied to early, in the early round. So what I mean is that like when you apply to colleges, your list is divided into like your dream colleges, your target colleges, and safety colleges. The safety ones being the ones which you are almost certain that you will get into. But the mistake, I think, not exactly mistake, but one thing which I would like to change would be to apply to my safeties in the early round. So that way, so what I did was I only applied to say like Cambridge and Princeton. Like the only results I got by say January 25th were Cambridge and Princeton, which were two of my dream colleges. And I did not apply to any safety colleges as such early. And I mean, I did end up getting into Cambridge, so I did not notice. So at that point of time, I did not actually notice or take into account like the disadvantages of not applying to safety schools early. But in retrospect, if say I would have not gotten into Cambridge, then that would have added a lot of stress between the period of say January and April when the regular decision results come out. So that's why I would recommend that, unlike me, you should apply to some like safety schools in the early round, because if I could go back, I would definitely do that. Yeah, and one more thing, like just a cautionary thing, I would say, like I heard that Ria mentioned that like you should not go like after all you should basically plan out the opportunities you take and not go after each and every one of them. But just a caution, like what I would do is like don't shut off everything immediately. like you can go and try something out, like say for 1 day, 1 hour or something, and say that, no, I don't want to do it. Because the thing is, you might end up discovering a new interest by through an activity which you had like no idea, which you did not imagine that you would ever take. And that might lead to a new interest, which might actually define your path going forward. So I would say that try it out try it out maybe like just once, or maybe like a half-hearted effort, but don't shut out all possibilities. Because even if, like, I personally had much more than 10 activities, and like in the Common App there is a section called the additional information, where you can like add everything, like if you had more than 10, or if you had more than 10 activities. So like, don't limit yourself. That's all I will say. Of course you should plan your activities, but yeah, don't like shut down like possibilities for the sake of it. Yeah, that's all I would say.
Word of caution here, Tanav and Rhea both were incredible, both are incredible students. So for them to say this, please take it with a pinch of salt. If you're not in your academic levels that you wish to achieve, I'm not saying you have to be number one, number two, any such thing, but if you know you're capable and you haven't reached there, please focus on that first. And that's actually leading me to my next question. Academic standardized testing. How did you all give that priority and, balance it with your extracurriculars? Because please mark my words here, you may have 25 amazing activities to show, but if your academic strength is not there, the colleges will be a little shy because they don't know how you are going to perform when you actually come to their institute, right? So let's start this question with you, Ria. SAT, academics, and the balance.
Yeah, so I think one of the best things that I did looking back was take the SAT as soon as possible. So I actually started prep before 10th grade ended, so around, I'd say, October of 10th grade, because I had planned to write it in May, so that the summer after 10th grade, so that I'd be done with it before 11th grade started. But because of the pandemic, the tests got canceled, and I eventually ended up writing it in December of 11th grade. But I still feel like that was the perfect time to do it, because I did not have to, like, after writing it for the first time, I got a good enough score to not write it the second time. So I feel like that took off a lot of pressure for me, because I already knew that I had a good score in hand, and I didn't have to work towards it again in 11th grade and 12th grade, which is when I'd say the scores are, even more important than 9th and 10th grade scores. So I definitely recommend to take the SAT around maybe May or that summer after 10th grade, so that, because in my opinion, that's also when you have a lot more time to prep for it, and you'll be able to give a lot more time to it, because as soon as 11th grade starts and school academics become a lot more rigorous, and in my opinion you won't have that much time to prep for it than you would if you did it before. And coming to balancing my extracurriculars with my academics, one tip that one of my friends told me was that when you're focusing on something, focus on only two things at once, and make sure that you're really working towards them, so that once you finish it, for example, you can work on other things. So for example, if school academics should always be there, something that you should always prioritize, but I wouldn't recommend doing school academics plus a research paper plus work, doing volunteering work all together at once. So I'd say plan out your activities and your timeline from beforehand, so that you know that you'll be focusing on maybe these two extracurriculars plus your academics in this particular month. And I think by spacing it out or setting a particular amount of time that you want to spend for each activity, per week or per month, is something that will really help you balance both of them. Because at the end of the day, from what I've seen with my friends as well, academics are the most important, I'd say, and then extracurriculars.
Yes, so about standardized testing, like how my like journey through this began was like first, now there are two options like which every student can take. There's either the SAT or the ACT. So the first step which I took was actually giving a diagnostic test for both of them to see which of these two am I more comfortable with. I think it's really important to take this diagnostic test, because I mean in the end you want to give the test which you are more comfortable in and which will better reflect your capabilities. And yes, so after doing both the diagnostic tests, I decided that I'm more comfortable with the SAT. And after that, it basically boils down to, like, I would say, practicing past papers for the particular standardized test you're taking, like be it the SAT or ACT. And if there are certain areas or topics which you need help with, like just like going to say websites like Khan Academy, and or taking help from teachers, for example, with particular topics which you might be struggling with. Yeah, so that's basically like how you would prepare for any exam, I would say. And now, coming to when to take it. Now, I think that there is no like special time or holy occasion on which you need to take it. I mean, naturally, what my recommendation would be is to take it when you feel that you're prepared to do it. Naturally, now some students who might be very comfortable with, say, the math and English in SAT, they might be very comfortable to take it right after 10th grade. But some people who are not very comfortable with it may feel that I want to prepare for an extended period of time and then actually give it, say, later in the second semester of 11th grade, for example. Both of these approaches are completely fine. You should take it when you feel that you're comfortable, but do not delay it too much. I mean, make sure that you have the opportunity to take a second attempt in case your first attempt like does not go as well as you planned. Yeah. And yes, now coming to the next question about balancing academics and extracurriculars. Now, my approach to this was quite different, as I did not see these two as two completely separate entities per se. I mean, like most of my extracurricular activities were based on, say, math or CS, for example, which many of you would perceive as academics. So, I mean, I did not see a very distinct, a very like thick line between these two entities, as most of my extracurricular activities were actually academic related. So, I mean, I just thought of this as like one learning journey. Like, to give an example, in like right after 10th grade, say I did a course on machine learning. After that I did a machine learning competition. And once I gained more confidence, I actually did a machine learning project, which I mentioned earlier. So, I mean, I did not actually plan that I would go through this entire process. So, I mean, yes. So basically, you can. What my advice would be is to basically focus your extracurricular activities around your like academic interests, and I mean that would help you balance it, in my opinion, because then you would start to see a connection between them and how they flow, like they intermix naturally with each other, rather than having to dedicate like separate like 5 hours for extracurricular, 2 hours for studies, and so on. Because I mean, they will you will see that they serve the same purpose, which is learning and the development and individual development. Yeah.
That's a great answer, Tanav. So well put, and really puts you to think about what is it that we are actually trying to achieve before going to college. And the truth is, it's just building your knowledge. If you can show it today, you'll be able to show it tomorrow as well. Tanav, just a question here from one of the students is, what's the difference between application for US, UK?
Okay. So, I mean, I think there is a great difference, a very big difference. Firstly, speaking about UK, I mean, UK is like almost purely academic based. Like the application is almost purely academic based. The most important factor they look at are grades, and there is one personal statement which you have to write, which is again about your own, which is again detailing your academic interests and passions and your academic goals in the future. And and that's where it ends for most universities. But for certain universities like Oxford, Cambridge, and Imperial College London, you also have to give an interview. And the interview is again like not a normal interview where they ask you about like who you are, your cultural background, and all of that. It is an interview in which they ask you subject related questions. Like you can think of it more as an oral exam per se, because in the interview they will ask you specific math problems or specific physics problems, which and they want to see how you approach the problem and how and whether you're able to arrive at the correct answer. So that's UK. It's to put it generally, it's almost completely based on academics and your academic interests, as I mentioned. Now, US, on the other hand, is a rather holistic admissions process. And what I mean is they do not only look at, say, grades. There is also an activity list where you have to list down 10 activities which you have done during your high school. Again, you could choose to base it on academics, like academic related activities like I did, or you could write about things like, for example, playing an instrument or volunteering for the community, or and basically any other activity that you have engaged yourself in during your high school. And apart from that, there is also supplemental essays in US, which seem like very random questions, but the basic objective of which is to actually gauge how you like your personality, how you are as a person, and your enthusiasm for your subject, which is not present in the UK. The UK is purely focused on your academic abilities. On your academic abilities. Yeah. So those are the major differences.
Thank you, Tana. Very well explained. Ria, question for you. Did you do early decision at Wharton? Were you not scared? And how did you prep for it?
Yeah, so I actually did do early decision at Wharton, and I didn't get deferred, so I got in early. Actually, one major thing for me was whether I should have applied to Harvard or Wharton first. And I think that's one thing that I really debated on. But eventually I chose Wharton because it was the best for what I wanted to do. And there were a lot more aspects that I won't really get into the details of now, but that eventually led to me choosing Wharton. So about getting scared, I'd say, or more worried, one thing that I really believed in throughout the whole entire college application process is, especially because it's so unpredictable, that you put in your maximum effort and then the results, you leave it. So whatever happens, I know it seems very spiritual or something that your mom would probably tell you. But from what I learned, or what my mindset was going into it, was that if I get it, then it's meant to be. Otherwise, something better is in store for me. So I think the other part was like, how did I prep for it, right? Yeah. So about prepping for it, so I do remember after my Common App essay, the Wharton essay was the one that I did first. And I actually had, at that time, I was actually debating about having my Harvard essays and Wharton essays both ready, and, kind of deciding what I want, kind of basically submitting the application to the school I wanted to after deciding. But I think in terms of prep, what was most important was knowing the ED school that I wanted to apply to. So it was, for me, very important that I did make that decision between both of them. And prep wise, I think it's the same as any other school, but just knowing that I wanted to, go there helped me, streamline my application and things that I wanted to do. And it made my application more focused towards what Wharton was looking for. So I did actually talk to a lot of people. I think one thing that also really helped me was talking to people over there at Wharton. And I asked them what things they did in they had in their application, and what Wharton really looks for while admitting students. And in terms of prep, I think that was something that really helped me. And again, once I got the interview, I did have mock interviews, and with quite a few people. Someone recommended that I asked my dad's friends to interview me. So just practice like that. But other than that, there was nothing specific that I did for Wharton.
Perfect. Absolutely. Very well answered, children. You now have access to our chat. You can easily put a question there. If you're not being able to put it, parents, children, faculty, you can even unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question. We have another 5 minutes where we will take questions. So please make the most of it. Of course, remember, we are looking at selecting a couple of you who may be mentored by one of us or one of our children, or Ria or Tanav are willing to take on. So reach out to us on our Instagram or our WhatsApp, and Ninad or I will happily reach out and help you guys with it. We are going to be giving free consults as well, so do not hesitate to reach out to us. Everything is possible as long as you know you want to get into your dream college. We're hoping to get you there. Anyone for any questions? Just unmute yourself and ask, or put it on the chat button. I see. Anyone wanting to ask any questions?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to ask a question.
Go for it.
Yeah, I want to ask Tanav, as he said he was into mathematics, right? So Tanav, I just want to know from which grade were you sure you want to go into math field, or you did have even confusion till 10th or 11th? Either I have another option, or you were really dedicated towards maths from grade 8 or grade 9 itself?
I think that I had made the decision that I want to pursue pure math in like grade 7 or grade 8. Like that's when I think like from that time till now, like I have been determined that like I want to pursue pure math, and I've continued to explore pure math since then at the highest level that I can go. Yeah.
Or you never had a change of mind, or you never had any of that thoughts in your mind?
No, not really.
That's great. Okay.
Maybe Ria could also jump into this question. I think it's a very interesting question. Ria, did you also have the same, or were you shifting and shuttling a little?
No, for me, it was actually very all over the place. So I remember going from architecture to psychology, to eventually business and economics. So as I explored more of my extracurriculars, again, which is why it's important to, like Dhanav said, try a variety of things. I think eventually it was towards the end of 11th grade or the beginning of 12th grade that I decided I wanted to do like something related to business economics. And I applied for business economics and public policy, which is also what I got in for. So yeah.
Yeah, Ria, what made you filter out things? Could you help me there? Because when I see my daughter, talking about multiple things right now. So how did you filter yourself to come up to this level?
So I think how I finally realized that I wanted to do business economics and public policy was when I looked at all of my extracurriculars. I realized that unknowingly, everything I did was related to this. So at the end of it, it was all of my interest. When I took a step back and when I looked at it, I found that all of them fit into this. And that's how I decided that this is what I want to do, because this is something that I actually enjoy doing. So I think over time, slowly you do eventually realize, when you take a look at it at a bigger picture, you do realize what you're tending or what you're going towards or what you would like to do.
I would like to add something to this question. It's very crucial to allow children to be confused. There are very rare few kids like Tanav who come saying, I am not going to look into anything. There are more kids that come like Ria. When Ria came to us, if I'm not mistaken, Ria, it was architecture, right? But as she moved, and she has a very beautiful story towards why she started Vishwasa. Obviously, due to lack of time, she's not being able to correct that. But I think the whole passion that she showed in the project, it was very evident to all of us that policy and governance is something that she has to do. And then slowly, gradually, she moved into economics and business, keeping in mind her scoreboard, keeping in mind what are the, if I may say, the overlaps that happen, like econ, business, public policy, to a certain extent are overlapping. And she realized it when she chose that. And I think that's very crucial, where we keep coming back is, what story does your application want to tell? And Stephen always says this, he's one of our co-founders. He's saying, imagine your application like the trailer of a movie. If you watch the trailer of the movie, you fall in love, you go for the whole movie. And that's exactly what admissions officers do. They look at your application and try to imagine you in a 3D aspect and say, oh, we love this girl or we love this boy and we want to have them. So that's exactly what it is. So you have to be careful. You could be all over the place in grade 8, 9, 10, 11 also. But when you're sitting down to do your application, and this is something I think AcepptU does a very beautiful job, is to be able to put all the jigsaw puzzle together and say, this is probably what you should be applying to, which can't be unreal, which can't be fake, because you may actually end up studying that, or may actually not have a choice but to study that. But I always think that my parents come with a concern that my child's not clear. And I say this because I speak with parents inside out daily. But I think children come with a thought that I like this, 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 and this. But if you actually sit to combine them together, there is a story to be told. So just, I know it's a fine balance for a parent, but allow them to discover. I really feel for Ria, her turning point came with Vishwasa. And especially during the pandemic, when people said we couldn't do any activity, Ria had so much happening in her life. It's not even funny. So, I mean, I know she'll never say it, but I'm telling you that there's just so much she was doing with Vishwasa, and burning out and trying to collect mobile phones and how to get them access and how to get them, to be able to do it online. That's the story to tell here. Her passion itself drove her towards where she realized she's going to go eventually. But I really like your question. Thank you so much. Anyone else who would like to, you can definitely, we do not have much time, so I'm going to take one final question. So anyone who wants to jump in, unmute yourself, ask the question, or put it on the chat if you're shy.
Excuse me, yeah. This is mainly aimed to Ria. I wanted to ask, if you wanted to build a portfolio relating to business and economics, what would you put into it and what would make you stand out?
And which grade are you currently, Devansh, so that she can answer the question keeping that in mind?
I've just started 8th.
Okay, so for you to get an idea, I'll tell you what I put on my application and my extracurriculars. But before that, I'd say regardless of what you put, again, just showing depth is what is, the most important. So I'll actually read out my extracurriculars for you. First, I put a research paper so Vishwasa is around, mental health. So I did a research paper working with the government of Telangana on the how the mental health policies are integrated into the state policies. So that's something I did. And again, Vishwasa I added on my extracurriculars. That was my second one. And then I put a couple of my activities into one that was working towards food insecurity. So we had a fundraiser for that. I developed an app. So because it was towards food, and I showed, like, I kind of connected it to public policy. And again, I took a lot of leadership positions. So I helped organize, my school MUN 4 times. I'll quickly go through because I know we don't have time, but I was the head girl also. So basically student government, and I took part in lots of school events. And I actually co-founded and co-founded the business magazine for our school, and it was the first club that was a combination of both, the CBSE section and international section. And I was also the vice president of the economics club. I took up a few academic based competitions like the Diamond Challenge. That's something that you can maybe look into, or the Wharton competition, which is an investment competition. So I did those. And yeah, I also founded a forum for business. It's called Imperia. So it was a forum where we had people from all over the world come and discuss certain business ideas. So overall, it was, a mixture of leadership positions, founding clubs. But at the end of the day, whatever your calling is, I'd suggest that you do that. But because, somehow related to business or economics.
Wonderful. Great question and great answer, Ria. I think we're pretty much out of time now. Okay, someone is
Yeah, I
can you
just
all
want to know
unmute
if,
yourselves?
if you want to, if your child wants to do like a major and a minor in US, so what would you like make your common app look like? So if you're
So can you all mute yourselves, please, so that we don't. Can everyone mute themselves? Nath, can you mute them? We're going to take that as the last question and I'll quickly answer. Generally, I would say your common app needs to be about whatever you're passionate about, but there will be academic questions like, why are you planning to do this major? That's where you cover your major and minor. Unless you're applying to UK, then you can't do a major and a minor. So you have to obviously have your essay about that one major you're applying to. So with that, we come to the end. Please reach out to us on our WhatsApp or on our Instagram. We'll be happy to continue answering your questions, or hopefully you might be the winner of one of our mentoring or our free consults. So thank you, Ria and Tanav. First, my thank you goes to you all, because without you, this wouldn't have been possible. I know both of you all are on vacations and trying to enjoy yourself, but this was an outstanding job. And I know, Ria, you're already helping a lot of the AcepptU students with their subjects. I'm hoping to convince Tanav to do the same. But again, thank you. Both of you not completed your journey till you all can help others. And I'm so thankful that you all have believed and done this for us. Then to all my students, parents, and faculty who've become a part of this so late in the evening, please do continue to join us. We do at least once a month free webinars. So do join in, and thank you, everyone. Good night.